Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalrin, and in today's video we'll be exploring one of the parts of the new expansion, Battle for Azeroth. I want to cover this whole expansion, at least what we know so far, in bits and pieces, just to give you guys as many videos to look for if you look for something particular, whether it be PvP, the new artifact type of mechanic, the races and whatnot. So a lot of these videos are going to be split up, but in today's video we'll be talking on something specific. Now in this part of the video, I want to take a look at, and I'm pulling up the website right now actually, I want to take a look at the allied races. I'm very excited about this because this gives us, on one hand, sub-races, but on the other hand, allied races. Blizzard have stated that allied races will be races that will have to choose to join the Horde or the Alliance, and a lot of people will be able to unlock these through a quest line. For example, if you're a Horde Tauren, or Horde anybody, you'll be able to get to High Mountain Taurens and convince them to join the Horde or Alliance. The lines have been drawn. It's Alliance versus Horde, and everybody who has a standing on Azeroth has to pick a side now. We might even see Tuskar in the future, maybe even Murlocs joining the fray. But some of the allied races that we have are High Mountain Tauren, which you remember from Legion. We have the Lightforged Draenei, which we were introduced to as well on Argus. The Nightborn, which we had a whole raid where we fought against these guys, and now they joined the Horde. And then Void Elf, a brand new faction of elves that are supposed to be following the corruptive magic of the Void and Alleria to join the fray for the Alliance. Although it says it's supposed to be a few elves that have followed Alleria, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a hell of a lot more of them. And then we also have the Zandalari Trolls and the Dark Iron Dwarves joining. But this is so far everybody that Blizzard announced so far. They said that they might add a lot more races in the future, and with the fact that these guys are considered almost like their own race is interesting. Now, I don't know exactly why Blizzard would consider their own race, because a lot of the community would argue that, well, a Tauren and a High Mountain Tauren are not that different. A High Mountain Tauren is basically a Tauren with a lot more body paint, a lot more maybe of that original Native American aesthetic that they had, that Tauren originally had way back in the day, and then of course the big ass antlers. So a lot of people would say that it's a sub race, but Blizzard treats them almost like as its own race, an allied race. We don't know how it's going to look for UI yet, but I think it's interesting because these guys will have their own racials. For me, honestly, that is enough for it to count as a whole new race, because not only are you given a different aesthetic in terms of how they look, and some of the various customization models, also where the race derived from via lore, but you also have a whole new concept that actually changes how you play. So in my mind, this might be as well a new race. Let's take a look at all of these guys. The High Mountain Tauren, these guys get to play as Druids, Hunters, Monks, which I find a little bit weird, Shamans, and Warriors. So you'll see first of all that these guys will have limited classes that they can play. For me, it's a little bit weird to see a High Mountain Tauren kicking and punching like a monk, but I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that these guys would be taught the way of the monk, because Tauren are able to be taught the way of the monk. So High Mountain Tauren, being the combative warriors that they have been for the longest, fighting for the tribes and whatnot, these guys I feel like could learn the ways of the Kung Fu, I guess, some Lee Sin kind of strats. And I would love to see their Druid forms to have a lot more body paint and maybe even some antlers design. I feel like that'd be so unique. Then we also have the Lightforged Draenei. We got introduced to these guys. These guys are basically a Draenei, but once a character is Lightforged, or once a person is Lightforged, they basically give themselves up fully to the Naru and then get this power of light. So these guys are basically fully given up to the Naru. It's basically the way of life for them. But these guys are now a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful, and a little bit unique compared to the normal Draenei. These guys get to play as Hunters, Mages, Paladins, Priests, and Warriors. Although I'm not sure how these guys will play as a Shadow Priest, because once you're Lightforged, anything that is of the Void hurts you. So I can't really see a Lightforged Draenei as a Shadow Priest, although I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. It's just in the lore stuff that talked about how if Alleria, who is all about the Void, and Turellian, who's all about the light, and he is Lightforged as well, if they were to even come in contact, there will be shared mutual pain between one and the other. So those two, even though they're together, they can't even give each other a good old hug. So I don't know how that's gonna work out. Maybe they'll limit some of the specs that you can play, which would be interesting. I think it'll be very unlikely, but it would be feeling a little bit weird to have a Shadow Priest, Lightforged Draenei on the field of combat. Alright, we're going on to the Nightborn now. When these guys will remember, we've been farming the Nightborn for so long, so for them to join the Horde, I guess makes sense, because they have the mana addiction just like the Blood Elves, and they would share that with the Blood Elves. Since Alliance is getting, you know, a Void Elf and a Lightforged Draenei, we need somebody to join for the Horde. I feel like Nightborn are a perfect faction for that. And while they do have a skeleton of a Night Elf, they still do look very unique in terms of the models, and some parts of their animation and even combat animations still do look very, very unique. So I'm pretty happy about these guys. They can be hunters, mages, monks as well. Again, it's a little weird for Nightborn, in my opinion, to become a monk, even though I feel like those guys would be able to have the mental capacity to do that. They're fairly smart as a elvish race. Then we have priest, rogue, warlock, and warrior, and I feel like warlock doesn't really fit them because only recently were they just imprisoned by demons, but I guess a few of them could use the magic to start imprisoning demons, since a lot of them did taste the fell. So it's possible for Nightborn warlocks to arise, and I think it's really cool. Out of all the different, I guess, allied races we have, these guys don't really feel as much like a copy paste like a Lightforged Draenei, which is like a Draenei with a few more light effects. Alright, back to the Alliance, we have the Void Elf, and I feel like once the servers are up, everybody and their mother is going to be a Void Elf. Who wouldn't want to play a Blood Elf on the Alliance? I mean, I feel like the circle would just be complete. These guys will be able to play as hunters, mages, monks, priests, rogues, warlocks, and warriors. And this one, again, I gotta go back to the whole light versus dark thing, because I don't know how a Void Elf, which is full of void energy, is gonna play as a holy priest that spawns a Naru out of the artifact weapon. I mean, we'll have artifact weapons gone, and maybe they'll redesign how some of these classes function. Maybe they'll take the holy priest away from the Naru aesthetic, but for the longest time, holy priests have had some kind of a connection to the Naru in one way or another, whether it be through talents, whether it be through the new talents of Mr. Pandaria, or maybe it might have been through some traits. So I don't know how that's gonna work. Maybe these guys will be only able to be just shadow priests. Not quite sure exactly how they're gonna do it yet. Maybe some specs will be locked out for them. So for example, as a rogue, they can't be outlaw, but they can be subtlety rogues, because they're all about shadow damage and shadow magic. We still don't know that, although I would find it weird to see a Void Elf holy priest with like Naru floating around him. I would think it just would have the opposite effect altogether. And then finally we have the Zandalari Trolls and the Dark Iron Dwarves. And what I understand from these guys, what I've been told by my stream, what I've been told from site research that I've been able to do, we don't know enough information about these guys just yet in terms of the racial or what classes they can play, but I've been told that they'll basically be able to play as Zandalari Troll. You'll be able to do any other class that a normal Dark Spirit Troll on the Horde can't do. And the same thing goes for Dark Iron Dwarves. They'll be able to use same classes as a normal dwarf can. So I would like to see some Dark Iron Dwarf Paladins, but I would love to see some Dark Iron Dwarf Rogues, because I feel like out of all the rogues, these kind of dwarves as rogues would probably be the perfect fit. Just something about the red eyes, the fire red beard, and then the glowing red runes on the armor. I feel like it's just very fitting. And of course I would love to see the racial for all of these guys, but so far I haven't seen any updates on the racials for these dudes. But as soon as I can get something on the allied races racials, I would love to look at them and break them down in detail for both PvE and PvP aspects. So this is my video on the allied races, and if you guys were wondering what the allied races were, again, to just cover it, we'll have the Hammond Tauren, the Nightborn, and the Zandalari Trolls joining the Horde, while the Lightforged Draenei and the Void Elves, which are basically the two factions we're currently helping on Argus, who will be turning on a lot of the Horde players, as well as the Dark Iron Dwarves will be joining the Alliance. And this is everything we have so far, but Blizzard said that these are the first 6 they want to add, and then maybe add some more in the future. So I kind of like the idea, instead of adding a whole new race, a whole new model, a whole new everything, instead you will just find the subsections of certain races that can be interchangeable between Alliance and Horde, and you can even add new races for them, and even limit what classes they can play down to like 5 classes. Honestly, that is enough to add a lot more races and gives Blizzard a lot more opportunity to bring a lot more sub races as its own races into the fray, into the game. So I'm very happy to hear about this. So again, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, so this video can be shared with more people. If you want to be more updated to the whole Battle for Azeroth updates, I'll be your guide to update you on everything that I can as soon as it comes out, as fast as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.